it's all BS. He should just keep doing that and bat them away, dismiss them. He should never have filed a lawsuit because now you're under oath, motherfucker. And guess what? You lie under oath. That's a crime. It could be impeachable. Oh, who did that? I did not have sex relations with that woman. Not one time. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your very own board-certified criminal defense lawyer, coming to you with my pearl-handled pistol cufflinks, so graciously gifted to me by the content genius that you knew as Michael Rivers, God rest his soul. Today, we're reacting to the news of Trump. Now, it's not really new news, but Trump and his machinations with Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal and the disclosure of this birthday card he supposedly gave to Jeffrey Epstein. But before we get to what all this means and the big fights that are going on, this is brought to you by AskALawyer.com. AskALawyer.com is a very effective way for you to get legal advice for almost nothing, $49. Are you kidding me? Go to AskALawyer.com if you have an issue with your landlord, if you have an issue with a contract, if you have an issue where you want to sue somebody but you're not quite sure on how to go about it, or if you have a decent claim, go to AskALawyer.com. Why wouldn't you? You can do one of two things. You can either dispel the myth that you're in your grandson's basement and he's mistreating you and you want to file an elder abuse claim. That could happen. Or you have a claim. Knowing you don't have a claim can be just as valuable to you as knowing that you have a claim. Because guess what? If somebody screws you over, you want to go after him, don't you? I mean, you want to get your justice. Knowing that you don't really have a claim kind of gets you some closure, and you can do that. Or knowing how to go about it to get to the next step is also equally beneficial. So for $49, you go to AskALawyer.com. I highly recommend it. And guess what? As of August 1st, guess who the national spokesperson and whose mug is going to be sponsoring this? Me. They're also the same people that brought you eForm and eSign. And if you're doing your own legal research, they have an AI component, so you can go to AskALawyer.com and take care of what you need to take care of. Okay? All right. So Donald Trump is in a fight with Rupert Murdoch, and the whole Republican Party is now fighting this whole Epstein thing. Trump has said that this is a witch hunt, it's a hoax, and he also said that this was the Democrats, that doesn't make sense. When was Ghislaine Maxwell prosecuted? Do you know when? Under the Trump administration. They're the ones that did it was under that administration that the execution of the search warrant happened of Epstein's place. It was during the Trump administration that Epstein was found hung dead in his cell, if you believe that. And so there's all these conspiracy theories, right? Oh, the government killed Epstein because there's all these people on this list. And look at this clip of Pam Bondi.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay.
She said that the list is on her desk, but she meant the file is on her desk. The file wasn't on her fucking desk. There's terabytes and terabytes of information that they got from Epstein's. The file wouldn't fit on her desk. And then all of a sudden you have an about face. Well, they can't release all the files on the Epstein case. They just can't. Why can't they? Because they would be disseminating child pornography. But could they release manifests for the flight logs? Absolutely they could. Clinton was supposedly used his plane 26 times. RFK Jr. used his plane twice. Alan Dershowitz has gone down there. All these people have used his plane, his resources. But does that mean that they were engaged in, activity that was illegal? Probably not. The stratosphere that encompasses all these conspiracies is just beginning to percolate and percolate and percolate. It's kind of the news of the day, right? Donald Trump was the subject of a Wall Street Journal post. And the Wall Street Journal posted just a description. They didn't even post the fucking card. So supposedly in 2003, when Epstein turned 50, Ghislaine Maxwell supposedly was going around and garnering birthday cards, having famous people. So and look at all these photos of Trump with Epstein. Here's one. Here's another one. Here's another one. He lived in Palm Beach. So while Donald Trump may not have gone to St. James Island, he certainly palled around with Jeffrey Epstein in Palm Beach. That's a fact. And you see this one, watch this one clip where Epstein and Trump are sitting there on the dance floor looking at these girls. They're buddying each other up, right? I mean, this is not somebody that you don't know. And you can just feel the camaraderie going on there. It's very familiar. It is very, is it really unthinkable that Donald Trump would send them a birthday card? No. But is it unthinkable that somebody might make this up? Yeah, somebody might. I mean, Trump's made a lot of enemies over the years. What does Trump do by suing the Wall Street Journal? What does he do? He opens himself up. Opens himself up to a deposition. Opens himself up to discovery. Opens himself up to way more criticism. He should just relegate this to, it's all BS. He should just keep doing that and bat them away, dismiss them. He should never have filed a lawsuit. Because now you're under oath, motherfucker. And guess what? You lie under oath, that's a crime. It could be impeachable. Oh, who did that? I did not have sex relations with that woman, not one time. And you know what? It was a torture definition of sexual relations with Paula Jones, with that woman. That woman who gave him a taste of a sweet cigar. Had Clinton just defaulted, and Alan Dershowitz gave this advice a way, way long time ago. Had he defaulted on the lawsuit, then it would just be an issue of damages. And they couldn't depose Clinton. If you don't depose Clinton, you don't have the impeachment. You just don't. Trump is falling into the same fucking trap because everything is personal with Trump, right? Everything's personal. But I think even if a judge ordered him to be deposed, I don't think he would allow himself to be deposed on this case. And if he doesn't, then his case gets dismissed. So he talks about all these. He hasn't won any of these civil lawsuits. I mean, with the rape allegation and the fraud allegation, he still owes better part of $500 million. $500 million. That's $500 million. So there's a case called New York Times versus Sullivan, and it's a Supreme Court case. And what that basically stands for, the proposition, is that you have to have actual malice. You have to know it's not true, and you have to have malice in the way you do something. For an example of this, they're publishing something that Trump, and the Wall Street Journal called Trump ahead of time, his people, and they said it was false. So they printed it anyway, but they also, when they printed it, they said that Trump denied that he wrote it. So you don't have the malice component, I think, in this case that you do. And here's the other thing. If it's true, that's an absolute defense. But what does it give the Wall Street Journal and Dow Jones the ability to do, and and what does it give Roger Murdoch the ability to do? What does it give them all to do? It gives them the ability to do discovery and start going into the relationship with Epstein, documents, flight logs, every time you were at his place. And then they get other witnesses. It turns into this big thing that Trump really shouldn't turn this into. His skin is so fucking thin. It's incredible. Now, here's the other thing that's going on. So you remember Ghislaine Maxwell? She was his right hand. And sometimes she used both hands. She procured these young ladies for Epstein, right? That was her main deal. She was tried and convicted, and she got a 20-year sentence, which is a pretty stiff sentence, especially somebody at her age. It's like a life sentence, really. It's the last third of your life, right? Trump's personal lawyer, who is a deputy attorney general now, is going to go talk to her. And guess what's going to happen there? Let's say she discloses some really negative shit about Trump. You think that's going to go anywhere? No. No, this guy's going to bury it, deep six it. You know that's going to happen. Now, you MAGA people, and I do mean you people, not really. I mean, look, you're Americans just like everybody else, right? And if we were in a fucking foxhole, we'd defend each other to the deals, because we're Americans, right? But you might be wrong about some things. I might be wrong about something. It doesn't mean we have to hate each other. I'm not a MAGA guy. But I will tell you this. If you were a MAGA person and you heard Trump talk about these conspiracies, if you believe in these conspiracy theories, that there's a secret list out there with all these high-profile people on it, and now you've got somebody that's so closely associated with Trump that he is going to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell, and what's her deal? She the only reason for her to do this is to try to get out, right? Let me posit a scenario. What if he goes to talk to her, and all of a sudden Trump commutes her sentence, but nothing's released? What does that fucking tell you? That tells you Trump is guilty as fuck, right? And he's protecting other people. I can't imagine that he would protect Bill Clinton, but I don't think he sees Hillary as his enemy. I don't think he sees Bill as his enemy necessarily, because Bill Clinton's never said or done anything that was really negative to him, right? If you are a believer in conspiracies, then rest assured that any action taken by Trump is going to be to cover this shit up. Look at Johnson. He had a bill that was ready to rock and roll to release all the Epstein stuff. Instead of addressing that bill, what do? They went on early recess. Oh, let's go on recess. So where there is smoke, there is fire. And I think Trump is being so short-sighted about this. He wants to, because everything is public image, right? So, and if you remember, he did sue Paramount or CBS because of the 60-minute interview where they tried to make Kamala look better, I guess, which I don't know that they necessarily did. But what were his damages there, honestly? What were his fucking damages? I mean, he won the election. He didn't lose the election. So they settled for $16 million. Well, maybe he's using that $16 million now to fund his current lawsuit. Who knows? But I think he's going to really regret that he's making this more, unless he's doing this. You ever hear the phrase, "Methinks thou protest too much." You can tell something's really bugging Trump why are we all of a sudden talking about the 2016 election? Almost 10 years later. That Obama is behind it all. Don't look at the waving hand, look over here, look at the distraction. And then he's weighing in on hosts of late night television. Fucking who cares what you think about that? I mean, why would you do that? You're the fucking president of the United States. Why don't you worry about... I thought you said you were going to have the Ukraine war between Ukraine and Russia solved within 24 hours. That didn't happen. And I thought you were going to have the Gaza and Israel thing settled within 20... Oh, that didn't happen. Oh, you're going to return... the hostages still aren't back. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're going to make peace... Oh, no, we don't have peace everywhere. So you're full of shit. And all you're doing is heaping more shit onto yourself. You're just now coming to the realization that... Now, this is a political rant, but it is what it is. Just now coming to the realization that Russia ain't our friend. Well, gee, big fucking surprise there. Fucking third grader could have told you that. But I digress. I don't want this to be a bashing Trump video, which it kind of is turning into a little bit. But aside from my criticisms of Trump, Jeffrey Epstein was an evil, evil man. He preyed on young girls who didn't have shit going on for themselves. And nothing is more evil than that, honestly. It's unclear to me whether he farmed that out as a perk of St. James Island. I don't know if he did that or not. We do know that he let people use his plane. We do know that he fraternized with famous people quite a bit, and that people wanted to hang out with him. For what purpose? Because he's of the rich and famous? I mean, what was he famous? I never heard of him until this stuff popped up. But if you remember, when he was first arrested on this deal, he got a sweetheart deal. 13 months, home confinement. Or did he get home confinement? Well, I know he got work release, so he could go home and work from home. Doing what? I don't know. And that deal kind of got blown up. But who gets that kind of deal? Nobody. Nobody gets that kind of deal. Did he offer that kind of deal? No, his skin's the wrong color. And he doesn't come from the upper crust. But anybody else, nobody on this fucking planet would get that deal. Why did he get that deal? That needs to be investigated. You know, who did he have for lawyers? He had Alan Dershowitz and Ken Starr. Who's Ken Starr? Remember who Ken Starr was? Ken Starr was the prosecutor in the Clinton impeachment, right? He's the one to depose him, and knowing he was going to lie and knowing that they had the blue dress. Without that blue dress, they didn't have shit. Just his word against somebody else's word. But they were going to do his DNA off that blue dress, that's just kind of a reckless discharge, if you ask me. So when you look at this whole thing, if Trump has any culpability here, he should just shut his mouth. And if he doesn't, he should shut his mouth, because it's just a distraction. I would just say, look, I'm not part of the Epstein thing. She was prosecuted. He's dead. I don't know any more about it. And we're not going to release the files because they're all full of child porn. And I can't release that to you if I wanted to anyway, because it's barred by statute. And I wouldn't want to re-victimize these young girls. I wouldn't want those girls' names and images plastered all over the fucking place. Would you? I mean, they shouldn't release that shit. I mean, they just shouldn't. In order for this to metastasize and to open it up and for all the conspiracy things to happen, I read somewhere that it was over 1,000 girls. I don't know if that's true or not. That seems like a lot. I mean, if it was 1,000 girls, we're talking life in prison for somebody, and she only got 20 years. So, you know, honestly, it should just die. This whole issue with Epstein should just die. And I'm not saying this because I'm part of the deep state. I'm not part of the deep state. Unless they've got really solid cases against people, you know, these younger, and then unless these young girls are willing to be disclosed to who they are, leave it alone. Because don't you think they've been traumatized enough? So, I mean, that's an angle I think not a whole lot of people are looking at. You know, Pam Bondi filed a motion to have the grand jury transcripts released to the general public, and there's some litigation going on there. I don't support that, honestly. I mean, it's not going to say anything about anybody but Ghislaine Maxwell, and it'll probably name some people that she trafficked. So to that extent, I would say that those names should be just deleted out of there, because what's going to happen with those people? Well, they're not minors anymore, but I guarantee you that the press would be all over that. They would investigate it, they'd find them, they would hunt them down, and then they would harass the shit out of them. Do you think they need that? I don't think they need that. They don't need any national exposure. You know, the one gal who was with, I think, Prince Andrew, what a prince. I think she passed away in some kind of accident, you know, and no amount of money is going to give these girls their dignity back or take away the trauma that they suffered. So why the fuck are we doing this, honestly? You know, and do I think that Ghislaine Maxwell should now benefit from some disclosure of somebody who was at their place? She had that opportunity before she went to trial. You realize that, right? You know, you have the opportunity to cooperate in a big case like this long before you go to trial, and she turned it down. My advice, let's move on. But if we're not going to move on, let's watch. So Donald Trump, if you're listening, which I know you are, because Donald Trump is one of my biggest fans. I'm just joking. He doesn't know who the fuck I am. But opening himself up to discovery on this case is foolhardy. We'll keep watching this, but my guess is that this lawsuit against Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal is going to die away. It is. I don't think Rupert Murdoch is going to pay any money out on this case. I don't think that there's any compensable. I mean, Trump is who he is. I mean, he said, yeah, you can grab them by their body parts on TV. You know, I mean, that's been widely publicized. No one's going to think that because of this, it's going to really hurt Donald Trump's image. He does enough hurting his own image every day. So, all right, a little housekeeping business. We got a letter. Check this out. We got a letter from some guys down in Yuma, Arizona. I'm going to read this to you. This is the kind of shit I just love. We're writing to you from sunny Yuma, Arizona, and wanted to send a little token of our appreciation for the fantastic content you put on your Criminal Lawyer Reacts YouTube channel. We've been avid viewers for a while now, and your videos always spark some great water cooler conversation for us. We love your no-nonsense and often humorous takes on your React videos. We truly appreciate the content you create. As a small thank you, I prefer big thank yous. No, I'm just joking. As a small thank you, we've enclosed a t-shirt and a can koozie from our dealership, Bobby's Territorial Harley-Davidson here in Yuma. We thought you might appreciate the criminal in the artwork given your profession, and that Yuma is famous for the Yuma Territorial Prison. We hope they come in handy. So this is what they sent me. They sent me a koozie, you know, and then they sent me this shirt. Now, as you may or may not know, you see it? As you may or may not know, I ride a Harley Davidson. And, you know, guys, you could have sent me I have a 2015, and I'm about ready to buy a new one. So you could have sent me a new one. I'm joking. But I love this engagement with people. I love the fans, you know, and so I'm not pining for gifts by any means, because you guys send me too much shit the way it is. But I really do appreciate the sentiments and the support, and it just makes me feel really good because, you know, Michael created this channel, and I want to keep it going. It was his legacy, and his memory is in my heart. So, along with my dear Clodagh, my fiance. Anyway, so we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Now, here's the deal. We lowered the price on some hoodies. So go to clrbrucerivers.com because we got some new ones coming in, but we want to get rid of the old ones. But they're still fantastic. So order yourself a hoodie. Make sure you sign up for Patreon. Subscribe. Go to Facebook and Twitter, everywhere we are, and make sure you go to askalawyer.com. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer React.
I just shot my mother and
I just shot my mother.
I committed a double homicide.
I just shot a little son of a bitch in my house.
I just shot a little son of a bitch in my house. Oh my God. Well, what do you think Thanksgiving's like at that house? Give me my fucking turkey pot pie.
Who is it to you?
He's my wife's grandson.
Oh, he's not my blood. And you can hear him whimpering in the background. Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your board-certified criminal defense lawyer, here to serve your viewing needs. Along with me is our content genius, Michael Rivers, behind the camera and behind every idea this channel puts out. Today we're reacting to shocking 911 calls, and it's something to be a dispatcher getting these calls, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But before we get into this episode, guess what? I'm going to give you some news that's kind of crazy. This is brought to you by eSign.com. Can you believe it? eSign.com. Hell of a company, great sponsor, great partner to CLR, an easy way to remotely sign documents. So if you have a power of attorney or you have any kind of document, a sales agreement, rental agreement, any kind of business agreement, any kind of document, no matter what it is, you can have it done by e-sign. You download the app and you get 3 free signatures a month. It's an effective way to remotely do business or to just get any kind of document signed. I use it all the time for retainer agreements, for powers of attorney. So if you are in need of any kind of electronic signature, use e-sign. Even if you don't have an immediate need for it, just download the app because then you have it when you need it. And sometimes time is of the essence when it comes to a business deal. If somebody comes to me and says, oh, I can do this, but so-and-so will do it for this. So how about if I just send you a retainer agreement right now and we sign it and we get the deal done? If you are a 911 operator, you are trained to deal with very difficult situations. Very few people call 911 just to talk. And if they do that, they're probably got some mental health problems and need some counseling. It's usually some kind of crazy scenario or dangerous scenario or life and death, most of the time. So let's just dive into what our content genius has laid out for us.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
I just shot my mother and
I just shot my mother.
You shot your mother?
I committed a double homicide.
Okay, you shot your mom and who?
Right away, he admits to murder. A homicide, there's a difference between homicide and murder. Homicide is death at the hands of another. Murder is the intentional or unintentional illegal killing of another person. And homicide doesn't always mean that somebody died illegally. You could die by a homicide and it could be self-defense.
Nephew.
What happened?
I lost my mind.
Do you know if they are they alive at this point?
I don't think so. I shot him multiple times.
So when he says he lost his mind, getting angry or pissed off or just losing your shit is not grounds for any kind of mental health defense. Him calling 911 and admitting to what he did in this calm fashion sort of negates any kind of mental health defense.
Okay. Where are you right now, sir?
My home.
Okay.
What was my home?
What did you shoot them with?
308 rifle.
Where is that gun now?
Through a that's fucking deer rifle. And let me tell you, that's a bloody mess. That is a bloody, bloody mess. It's a very large round. And anyway, I'm not going to go into the gory details, but there's no sense that you could say it was a mistake with a 308. Sorry, just that's not an option for him.
Now.
That's on the ground.
And are you inside now?
I'm ready to surrender. I don't give a shit about this life anymore, and I don't care.
So when you hear him say, I don't give a shit about this life anymore, that's somebody that, could be suicidal. So the cops, I guarantee you the SWAT team's going to show up. I guarantee you that their guns are going to be drawn, and they have to deal with this with a lot of care.
Okay, I don't want you to kill yourself.
Yeah, I know. You want your case.
No.
You want your case. I mean, the 911 operator's job at this point is to try to avoid any further loss of life, right? And to protect the officers. So they want to make sure that he doesn't have the gun and that he stays on the phone so they can keep kind of tabs on what he's doing.
Oh, no, sir, that's not what I'm getting at.
Great.
Are you inside or outside?
I'm smoking a cigarette in the garage. My last cigarette, I suppose.
Are you armed at all now?
I don't really respect your cops at all, but...
So you hear him saying, this is my last cigarette. That kind of expresses an acknowledgement of the predicament that he's in. And that awareness of the wrongfulness of his actions really takes away any kind of mental health defense.
No. If they treat me with respect, I'll go ahead and be a prisoner. That's fine.
Can I ask your date of birth, sir?
I don't remember.
You went crazy. You had some kind of mental break?
Well, I'm going to open the garage door. I can't believe I did.
You'd have to do a full, from a defense perspective. This is almost impossible to defend, right? So when you are thinking about defending this case, the first thing you do is have a full psych eval. And I think I've talked about this before. There's a competency evaluation, and then there's also the McNaughton, right from wrong kind of evaluation. Did I know was I insanity? In other words, was I insane at the time, laboring under a mental health condition so much so that I couldn't control my actions, or that I didn't know I was wrong or right? And am I able to aid in my defense? And so those are the two competing. He's so lucid here that it's almost impossible to suggest that he didn't know what he was doing. And that's exactly what he did. He did try to use a mental health defense, which did not work. And his name is Adrian Wallace, who's out of Oregon, and he wound up getting a life sentence without the possibility of parole. and mother was a social worker. You know, I mean, he had some mental health stuff in his background. But just because you've got some mental health problems does not mean that you necessarily qualify for a mental health defense where it absolves you of responsibility. And even if he was not guilty by reason of mental illness, guess where he goes? He gets committed. So he goes into a state facility regardless. All right, so let's go to the next one. We'll do a few of these. The next one is, let's just go.
911, tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. Said he had just came from a neighbor's house. Her name is Jody Hildebrand, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's got tape around his leg. He's emaciated, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
So imagine being the home that little boy comes to. You know, knowing there's been some shit going on at that house next door over the years, and all of a sudden this boy comes to you with a story.
He asked us to call the police.
What's
So
his
he's
name?
very afraid. He's 12 years old.
Does he know his mom's name?
Ruby Frankie?
Does he seem to be under the influence of drugs or alcohol?
I don't think so.
Need an ambulance?
So if you remember, we did a reaction to the Ruby Frankie case. You know, remember these are the YouTubers who were doing their thing, and they're Mr. and Ms. Two ladies who were parenting experts. This is the 911 call from that case. I mean, imagine, you know, children are so fucking precious to begin with. I don't care if they're little shits and they piss you off or not. You don't, number one, you don't hit them. And there's nothing that can't be solved with words and other kinds of discipline. You don't tape them. You don't deprive them of food. You don't mistreat children. That Ruby Frankie, she's in fucking jail right now where she belongs. When it comes to abuse of children, I don't think anything is much worse than that.
I don't think he needs an ambulance. His ankles are taped up, and he won't tell us why. He has duct taped around each ankle.
Can I just a parenting tip? Just off the cuff, you know, and I haven't read a book on this or anything, but no duct tape around your kids' ankles is ever warranted. I'm just spitballing that one. Give me a fucking break.
Doors around him. I think there's a good chance he's been.
Yeah.
Oh, and he has them around his ankles. I mean, his wrists as well. Okay, this boy he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
Covered in fucking wounds. And what gall for this woman to hold herself out as a parenting expert. Meanwhile, she's taping her child and depriving him of food.
Okay. Let's get the paramedics headed over that way, okay?
Oh, that's a good idea, too.
Has he
Gee, no kidding. I think so. Jesus Christ.
told you where his mom or dad are?
He says he knows where his mom is, but...
You know, imagine, you know, when the gig is up, when all of a sudden, or the jig is up, when the jig is up, and all of a sudden, you know, police come to her and they say, "What the hell is this?" What's her response? There is no good response. You know, a child is not going to lie about something like this. Children generally don't lie. Sometimes they do, and sometimes, you know, I've cross-examined plenty of children. And a jury wants to believe a child. You know, in every kind of child abuse or child sex case, there's always three parties. There's the perpetrator, there's the rescuer, and then there's the victim. Kid's always the victim, right? And the rescuer is always the jury. The jury always wants to try to save the child. So when you start out in a hole like that, they're very, very difficult cases to defend. It's easier to defend a homicide, honestly, than these types of cases. And as we know, that Ruby Frankie is still, you know, handling her case, and she's been detained, and she's been denied bond. You know, because it was that bad. So that was that Ruby Frankie case. That actually just kind of shocked me because I didn't realize that's what we were gonna do. See, I don't. These are cold reactions. I just do what my boss tells me to do.
911, state emergency.
My wife just shot me.
Okay, where?
Okay, my wife just shot me. Let me just tell you, if my wife fucking shoots me, you don't shoot people. I mean, unless there is a thing called battered wife syndrome, and that's a real thing. And you could be suffering from abuse after abuse after abuse over the years, and finally you just can't take it anymore, and you snap. That's a real thing.
Where you shot at?
My arm.
How old are you?
Bailey, stop! 25. I'm an off-duty police officer. I'm locked in the basement. She's shooting through the door. She's going to kill me. She already shot me through the door.
She shot you.
So he's behind the door and she's shooting him. Well, I guess that leaves any kind of self-defense away from her, right? Because if he's behind a door and so there's something separating, there's no immediate threat to her. Or you wouldn't think there would be.
Through the door?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm bleeding out all over the place.
Do you have something, a belt, a shirt, something that you can tie around that, like a tourniquet?
I don't. I really...
That's the other thing, you know, the 911 operators a lot of times are trained in medically too, and they can tell, you know, at least for some simple first aid.
Do you have a shirt on? Do you have a pair of pants? Whatever you have, I need you to take it off and tie it tight. Right where the wound's at, okay?
Let me just say that I don't think counseling is going to help these two. I mean, you know, imagine hearing this. I mean, this is what 911 operators do. They listen to this shit. And, you know, how do they not take some of this home with them, right? And they're sort of helpless. I mean, they can kind of direct some things, but they're listening to this. There's nothing they can do except for get a squad en route and then just try to guide the person on the phone. Oh, he's an off-duty cop. Oh, my God. And to make matters worse, this is not any kind of wimpy guy. This is an off-duty cop who is evidently unarmed.
Sir? Sir? Sir, can you hear me? Sir?
I don't know what happened at the end there. It sounded like there was a bang and the call ends. But, I mean, think about that. These 911 calls, you know, nobody calls 911 to say happy birthday or Merry Christmas. You know, everybody calls 911. Why? Because they either need an ambulance or they need a police department or they need a fire department. Something bad is usually going on. And think about being a 911 operator, hearing this shit, you know, that's what their job is every day, hearing these emergencies. You know, there was a movie with Halle Berry in it. And, oh, my God, that was really an amazing, where she plays a 911 operator. Just gives you a glimpse into their lives a little bit. So, and just to give you kind of a wrap-up of what happened in this particular case, Dylan is the guy that was screaming, the off-duty cop, and evidently he was armed. And he restrained himself, didn't want to shoot his wife. The cops came and rescued him, and he had a wound to his arm. They had a 3-year-old son, and then when they went to go look for her, she was deceased from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. You know, and it's just sad when something has to get to that point. So, and I don't know what was going on between them, you know, but clearly there's some mental health stuff going on when it gets to that point, whether it's abuse on one side or the other, or whether it's just despair. Because, you know, I had a client whose wife was adult onset paranoid schizophrenia, and she thought people were after her and just wreaked havoc with their lives. And she ultimately took her own life. These situations are not for the faint of heart. They're delicate. And when you have somebody who's trained as a 911 operator handling these things, the first few moments of that phone call are so critical. And to maintain composure, and you hear that throughout these officers or these 911 operators, you know, dispatchers' voices. They're calm. I mean, these are kind of interesting because what are they really? They're a vignette into human behavior, right? And that's really what they are. They're just a glimpse into somebody's life when they're really doing poorly. All right, so this next one, the caption is just, he stopped a robbery.
911, what are you reporting?
Yes, I just shot someone in my business.
Okay, and who did you shoot?
I don't know. There's another one. I got a gun on him.
Was somebody trying to break in?
They broke in the door and was taking a step out the door.
Hang on. Let's talk about that. Now, this is not your home. It's a business. You don't have as much expectation of privacy in your business as you do your home. So, and then if you use lethal force, it has to be what? What's the word? Come on, what's the word? It's reasonable. It has to be reasonable in light of the circumstances. So he's sitting there in his business. He's got people that are breaking in, and So let's listen in.
Hang on a minute.
Do not move.
The owner has them at gunpoint. He did shoot one.
They broke in the door, and I'll keep the guy at gunpoint. I'm standing here in my underwear.
All right, so is the other guy bleeding?
He's not moving. Yes, he's bleeding.
So they broke in your front door?
Yes, they busted in the front door.
What kind of gun do you have?
A .357 Magnum.
All right.
Right there, that's what that is. That's a cannon. 357 Magnum is a cannon. And if you shoot somebody with a 357 Magnum, it's going to leave a hole. It's going to leave a big hole. And if he's bleeding, he could bleed out while he's sitting there. Calling 911 is the absolute right thing to do in that circumstance. And not emptying your fucking gun into them is also the right thing to do. Not emptying it out.
All right, revolver?
Yes.
A felony is being committed, right? So you have the right to make a citizen's arrest. But do you have the right to make a citizen's arrest with lethal force? That will be a question for a jury. But my guess is that this guy was never going to get charged. I would hope not. So, but anytime you use lethal force, it has to be justified under the circumstances. It has to be reasonable. And at this point, he's got them subdued and the threat is pretty much gone. So just keep him there for the cops, probably reasonable. The other thing is sometimes you have a duty to retreat, but that duty to retreat only applies where it's reasonable to do so. And didn't seem like it was reasonable in this case because he was sort of trapped within his own business when two people are breaking in. All right, so we got one more. We'll do one more. The caption of this one is, angry guy shoots his grandson. Now, most grandfathers, you would think, are just nice, decent old guys who just want to take you fishing and blah, 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 right? Well, if you're a little shit that causes your grandfather to shoot at you, what the hell did you just do? Let's listen in.
911.
I just shot a little son of a bitch in my house.
I just shot a little son of a bitch in my house. Oh, my God. Well, what do you think Thanksgiving's like at that house? Give me my fucking turkey pot pie.
Did what?
I just shot somebody.
Okay, why did you shoot someone?
I told him to get the hell out of my house, and he didn't leave.
Okay, asking somebody to get the fuck out of your house and them not leaving is not a reason to shoot somebody. Unless they're shooting at you or posing. You know, you have the right in most circumstances where you believe a felony is about to be committed and there's a threat of either great bodily harm or death. Okay? So that's the opportunity in your home, and you don't have any duty to retreat anywhere in the country when you're in your own home. It's called the castle doctrine. But if you're just irritated because your grandson won't fucking leave your house and he's just a little son of a bitch, as this guy put, you don't have the right to shoot him.
Who is it to you?
He's my wife's grandson.
Oh, he's not my blood. And you can hear him whimpering in the background.
Your wife's grandson?
I need a damn ambulance.
Is he alive? Is he breathing?
I need an ambulance.
Where did you shoot him?
You dullard, I don't need an ambulance. Where the hell do you think this is? This has got to be in the South.
Matt.
I don't know. I shot him in the chest, I think.
You shot him?
Shot him in the chest. Oh, fuck. Come on, man.
Him in the chest?
Yes.
Did you shoot him with a shotgun or a pistol?
A pistol.
Okay, was he being aggressive or anything to you, William?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, he was being aggressive. Tell me more.
What was he doing to you?
I told him to get the hell out of my house. I didn't want him here. He wasn't welcome here. To get out.
Okay.
And he refused to leave, so I shot him.
Okay, that's called self-snitching right there. He refused to leave, so I shot it. You can't fucking do that. You can't do that, Grandpa.
Sorry, Lord.
Okay.
Will you please send an ambulance?
Yep,
Did I tell you all this?
Is he bleeding?
Oh, hold on a second. You
Here,
talk
here,
to my wife. Oh, my God.
Is he breathing? Is he...
You think that might be grounds for divorce if you shoot your wife's grandson and all he wanted to do was hang out?
Still alive?
He's just making...
He's just making noises. Here's the deal. Grandpa's going to prison for, at the very least, assault with a deadly weapon, more likely attempted murder. And so Grandpa and Grandma, I don't have any follow-up to this one other than to say Grandma probably should find a new, mate. And grandson, hopefully he recovers and files a restraining order against Grandpa because Grandpa evidently doesn't like him. But Grandpa sounds like he's going to have lunch available for him for, the next 20 to 30 years. So this is our little vignette into 911 operators and the stuff that they deal with. They're special people. They deal with high stress, crisis situations, and they have to be able to provide a little bit of medical, and they have to be calm. They have to be calm, and they have to give directions that help the first responders, like the ambulance and or the police. And they also have to, because these come into every case. These are 911 calls. 911 calls come in every case. They're not hearsay, because it's what gets the ball rolling. So we'll see you next time here in Criminal Lawyer Reacts. We love you. We love you. We love eSign. Make sure you use eSign. I mean, they're just awesome people, and we just love the comments. We love our audience. I see you guys out in public all the time, and I can't tell you how much it means when you guys recognize me or Michael and you give us kudos, high fives, or we take selfies. I just absolutely love it. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer with our content genius, Michael Rivers. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and we'll see you next time on Criminal Lawyer React. So just a quick little ditty on Diddy in what life is like for him. Prior to today, his heart was pounding. His heart was pounding. His heart was pounding. His heart was pounding. Because he was looking at life without parole, life in federal prison. Being in the metro, which I think that's where he was, is no fucking picnic. You're clanging doors, you don't have a comfortable mattress, you don't have a warm blanket, you have a steel toilet that's sitting right next to your bed that smells like what you just put in there. Bruce Rivers, welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Breaking news! Breaking news! The verdict is in on the Sean P. Diddler, P. Diddler Combs, Puff Daddy. Why do I have Tourette's when I say his name? I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm not lathered up in baby oil. But the verdict is in, and we're going to go through the verdict. We're going to go through sentencing, and we're going to go through his post-verdict motion to get me out of jail. But before we do that, this episode is brought to you by AskALawyer.com. AskALawyer.com is a very effective way to get an opinion from a living, breathing, and yes, we have hearts. If you have a problem with your landlord, if you have any kind of contract dispute, if you have a criminal problem, if you have a civil problem, if you have any kind of case you think you need some advice on, go to AskALawyer.com for only $49. Guess what? You get sound advice, and you can be told, look, you don't have a claim, Grandma. Sit back down, go back to the basement, pick your toenails, and I'll make you some slop, okay? I'm kidding. I don't do that to my grandma. She ate steak every night. Or, you don't have a claim, because if you don't have a claim, you need to know that. Why would you waste money on pursuing something that you really don't have a legal claim to? Conversely, if you do have, something worth fighting for, they can get you started. And it's the same people that brought you e-forms and e-sign, so they're quality folks. So go to AskALawyer.com, and if you're doing your own legal research, they have an AI component trained on all the states. Okay. Sean P. Diddler, Diddler, he was found guilty of only the Mann Act charges. Those are the transportation across state lines for the purposes of prostitution. Now, we're going to get into what the guidelines are on those counts, but let's talk a little bit about the RICO and the sex trafficking counts. Those 3 counts, not guilty. And I have to admit, I was wrong. And some of you beautiful people out there were so eloquent in how you pointed out that I was wrong. I wasn't the only talking head that was wrong. But you never know. You never know what a jury's going to do. This wasn't a domestic violence case. I mean, there was domestic violence in it. And the defense was really smart to paint it as that. But that bit them in the ass in the end, trying to get him out, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But they conceded the violence. Say, yeah, he's a violent guy. This was a violent dispute between two adults, that happens almost every day, and it's really a misdemeanor what happened. But he's not charged with domestic violence. But that's what that was. And one of the other things that they attacked on Cassie Ventura and then the other woman is the consensual nature of their involvement. You had text messages from Cassie saying, I can't wait for the freak off. Who the fuck wants a freak off, honestly? Ugh. I still can't get over how much they had to fucking pay to fix hotel rooms because there's so much oil. Anyway, sorry about that. I digress. The jury rejected the RICO. One of the elements of RICO was that there's an enterprise, and a conspiracy to commit criminal acts between two or more people. The defense hit home the element of consent. And there was plenty of evidence that Cassie Ventura and the other gal, that they consented. There was all kinds of text messages. There was all kinds of conduct. And it just didn't seem to fit or match what she was saying. The other thing that I think hurt the government in this case is the fact that Cassie, I thought initially that the money part of it wouldn't really benefit the defense because she's already gotten paid. Is she a tainted witness now? But think about it this way. During the whole relationship, she's getting something out of this, right? He gave her her phone. She could leave whenever she wanted. She was getting something out of it. She was getting money, promoting her music, and he was a powerful dude in the community, so she's getting status as well. So from that standpoint, she's sticking by her man, even though she's being mistreated. I don't think the jury believed what she had to sell. I didn't sit in the courtroom. So one of the things is, I'm here at 30,000 feet kind of guessing like everybody else is, right? And the sex trafficking, those were 15-year mandatory minimum sentences. And when I say mandatory minimum, I mean the judge doesn't have the authority and cannot go below the mandatory minimum unless he's got some other, either a cooperation agreement or there's a safety valve too that may or may not apply. Probably not in this case because it's a crime of violence. Because there's violence in it. So where are we at? We've got 2 counts of the Mann Act, basically transporting somebody across state lines for the purposes of prostitution. What does that mean for Mr. Diddler? It means that, first of all, there's a statutory maximum of 10 years. So people are saying, he's looking at 20 years. He's not looking at 20 years. So now he's been acquitted of the most major charges where he was looking at life on the RICO, right? Those guidelines were through the roof. In this case, you've got 2 counts, and they're from 2 separate dates. So to begin with, the court will have the power to do one of 2 things: either sentence them concurrently or sentence them consecutively. The government in this case is going to ask for a significant sentence. Because he was acquitted of these serious charges, the defense made a motion to have him released pending sentencing. Because if you go at the very low end of the guidelines, it's like 14 months. And here's where it gets kind of tricky. So it is a change in circumstances in the sense that he's no longer looking at life. So there's, and you've heard it from every talking head already, what the judge considers when talking about bail. So it's risk of flight and danger to the public, basically those 2 things. And one of the things that the judge asked the parties to do is to write a brief, at 1 o'clock. And so get a brief in here by 1 o'clock. We'll decide it here at 5 o'clock. So that's what happened. And the judge denied the bail. Now, here's what I think kind of bit the defense in the ass. In the trial, they conceded the violent nature of Mr. Combs. This is not a RICO case. This is a domestic violence case. Is he a bad guy? Is he a violent guy? Yes. And guess what the judge said? He's violent. You conceded the violence, so I'm not going to let him out. So he denied the release. And that's not really a surprise, honestly. Once they grab a hold of you, they don't want to let you go in federal court. So now what is he looking at? So if you look at the guidelines, I believe that the government is of the opinion, there's a couple of different ways you can go about this. Under a certain provision of the guidelines, he could be a level 14. If he's a level 14 with 0 or 1 criminal history point, then he's a 15 to 21 months. If you add coercion onto that, which the jury sort of rejected, it seems like, then it's 27 to 33 months. However, if you go with the other part of this, the guidelines, and this is what the government is doing, it's 51 to 63 months. And that's the number that I think you guys should look at, because the government is telling the court that he is looking at 51 to 63 months. So he's looking at significant prison time, and we should keep him in prison. Okay, and the judge did that. Let me just tell you what the judge said. Even if the defendant was solely required to show that he is not a danger to the community, he could not meet that burden. Prior to trial, the court denied bail and sees no reason to reverse that now. The defense conceded the defendant's violence. Well, they did that and they won the day, but they lost this little tiny battle. So, and here's the thing. He gets credit for the time that he's doing now anyway. So let's just calculate. Let's say he gets middle of the guideline range. Let's say he gets 58 months. So you take 58 months times 0.85, and that equals 49 months minus 10 months, 39 months, a little over 39 months. That's likely about the amount of time. And then if he does a drug and alcohol program, it's called the DAP program, if he qualifies. It might be a crime of violence. No, it's not. It's a Mann Act. So you minus 12 off of that, and now you're looking at basically 2 years. But he still has to do 2 years. And he's going to go to prison. He is going to prison. Now, what could the judge do differently than this? The judge could say, this is ridiculous. Your conduct, Mr. Combs, is so above and beyond the pale that a message needs to be sent to everyone watching this trial. Although you're not supposed to really take into account public sentiment when you sentence. But the judge can take into account acquitted conduct. Doesn't seem fair, does it? I mean, wait a second. I was acquitted of that shit over there. Now you're going to hold it against me over here? The guidelines are advisory. And unless the judge is so off the wall, he can make his determination as to what the guideline factors are. He's not bound by what probation says or what the defense or the government's arguments are. So the judge could sentence him higher or lower. He's not going to sentence him lower. I mean, this case just had the yuck factor all over it. You had drugs, you had violence, you got sex, you got willing sex, unwilling sex, who knows? But it's just got those yuck factors. Agnifilo tells the court, Your Honor has a lot of information from presiding over the trial. We want the sentencing as soon as possible. Other Mann Act cases, there's nothing remotely similar to this. So the judge said sentencing Friday, October 3rd at 10 a.m. I'm willing to expedite it. Combs, we would like to expedite it. We will need an expedited pre-sentence report from probation, but I will be available any time. So he's going to sit till October 3rd. One of the things they do now is probation will meet with Combs and his attorneys. They'll go over his background. They'll go over his finances. They'll go over his criminal background, how he was brought up, what he's been doing for his career. They'll go over the offense conduct, which he may or may not speak about. But here's the other thing. You know, he didn't testify, so he's not going to get an obstruction. He might be able to get a point or two for acceptance of responsibility that might reduce his guideline calculation. So that's something that nobody's really talking about. He can't get the full 3 points, but he might be able to get 2 points if during his interview he accepts responsibility for the Mann Act charges, which he might as well, because those were about as clear as day, right? And he doesn't have to appeal the other charges because those are gone. He was acquitted. So he's only facing the 2 Mann Act charges, and those are so manageable. He'll be out in no time. They'll sit down with probation. Probation will create this report. After probation creates their report, they give it to the parties. Then you can file what they call objections. So let's say they get something wrong, like in the criminal history or the address or financial or some other thing they get wrong, in the pre-sentence investigation. Or they get some of the guideline calculations wrong, or you don't agree with it. You file objections with probation. You try to work those out. If you can't work them out, they note your objections. Then you get the final pre-sentence investigation, and when you get that, the court will hear from both sides, and both sides present their arguments in writing with a position paper. You go through the guideline calculation, you go through the 3553A factors, those are all the sentencing factors. You know, the purpose of sentencing, not to diminish the seriousness of the offense, protect the public. It's just a whole list of factors. This was a really interesting trial. And the defense really took a gamble in not putting their client on and not putting on any witnesses. There were a couple witnesses, a couple of assistants who said they didn't commit any crimes and the government had them on their witness list but didn't put them on trial. And I think the defense mentioned that in their closing, you know, well, where are these people, you know, that he co-conspired with. There's no co-conspirators testifying, which you don't often have in a case like this. I think it was overcharged and undertried by the government. And I know that's kind of unconventional because what it was, a 7-week trial with 34 witnesses. But the thing about it is, when you don't have a clear message, and I don't think they really did have a clear message. RICO is meant for, you know, making money. And it's you know, having a conspiring to gain something through illegal activity. I mean, it was meant for the mob. That's when it was created. And I think the jury just thought, this is really the inner workings of somebody's personal life. It's disgusting. You know, it might be criminal sexual conduct. Could the state of New York pick it up? Probably not. Not after, you know, Cassie's been through this. But it didn't help her, I don't think, that she demanded $20 million, you know, and she was getting, you know, housing. She was getting money and furs and, you know, when she's the girlfriend. So she's sticking around. And why is she sticking around? She's sticking around for the life, right? And she loved him. You know, I was on a panel with Piers Morgan earlier today.
Bruce Rivers, I mean, you were very confident that he was going to go down to prison for the rest of his natural life. That is clearly not going to happen. So how do you feel about this verdict?
Well, I think the case was overcharged to begin with. And what the defense did in this case, they really focused on the free will of Cassie Ventura. I don't remember the name of the gal that was on there, but she was talking about the Me Too movement and how these women aren't heard, you know, or believed or whatever. And she was just crying in her beer about it. And it's like, wait a second. These women that testified had a full and fair opportunity to be heard. If you are making an allegation, your allegation has got to withstand scrutiny. So Cassie Ventura had her day in court. She went up against a very, very adept legal team, and guess what? She lost. And the government lost. Government wins like 90-some-odd% of their cases. You know, the federal government. They've got the FBI. They got the DEA. They got Homeland Security with unlimited resources. So one of the, you know, in conceding the violence, one of the things that the judge said, you concede violence in your closing. Whether that's relevant to sentencing is not for today, but it can be considered on a bail application. And then Agnifilo says, in June 2024, there's an argument that Mr. Combs was defending himself. Yeah, give me a fucking break. Who believes that? And then the judge says, Mr. Combs tried to get into a batterers program in New York. The jury never heard that. Then he got arrested. All these months later, here we are. The same drive to meet head on, the same self-respecting businessman he is. So when you look at this whole thing, you know, if he tried to get into a batterers program, that was probably about the time that he gave the mea culpa. Oh, I'm so sorry for Cassie, you know. And you tried to pay somebody off to hide the video. You're not sorry. You don't give a shit one. You just care how you're perceived. That's kind of the landscape in a nutshell. And I'm just trying to explain things to you in about as plain language as I can. So one of the things when you can Google the federal sentencing guidelines. At the top, there's criminal history categories 1 through 6. And then they have offense levels 1 through 43. And then you can see what the guideline range is in all these. And if it's a 24, it's 51 to 63 months with 0 or 1 criminal history point. And it sounds like that's what the government's going to ask for. That would be a guideline sentence. But I would suspect they might even be asking for an upward departure from the guidelines, or an upward variance from the guidelines. So we'll keep an eye on it. And, I appreciate all the comments, even the harsh ones. You know who you are, right? And, I'm not right all the time. And, nobody is. We take guesses on this stuff. The RICO part of this is not that hard to prove, but it is designed for a different type of case. So these were personal habits of Mr. Combs, right? I mean, he wasn't in the business of sex trafficking. He wasn't in the business of lathering up a male prostitute and watching him fuck his girlfriend. So just a quick little ditty on Diddy in what life was like for him. Prior to today, his heart was pounding. His heart was pounding. His heart was pounding. His heart was pounding. Because he was looking at life without parole. Life in federal prison. Being in the metro, which I think that's where he was, is no fucking picnic. You're clanging doors. You don't have a comfortable mattress. You don't have a warm blanket. You have a steel toilet that's sitting right next to your bed that smells like what you just put in there. And it's not fun. However, today is a different day than yesterday. Why is that? Because there's an end in sight. He doesn't know how much time he's going to get. He has no clue. Nobody does. Judge probably has some clue as to where he's going to be. When we get to sentencing, the prosecutor will make their argument, right? And then the defense makes their argument. And then they'll have, they'll have victim impact. They may have victim impact on this. I'm not sure. And then Combs gets the final word. And then after that, the judge pronounces the sentence. It'll be interesting to see how the judge comes to the conclusion that he does. Because, this has the yuck factor to it, but at the same time, you can't be so swayed by what was going on that you over-sentence, if you get what I mean. So he'll look at all those 3553A factors. That's a statute. Look it up. And he'll apply those, and that's kind of how he'll drive the sentence. We'll keep following this. October 3rd is when the sentencing is. And, make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Sign up for Patreon. Go to clrbrucerivers.com for all your merch needs. Because Nick is sitting in a dark room by himself, just twiddling his thumb. No, he's not. We got plenty of orders, and they're getting filled. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of CLR, Bruce Rivers, Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm a board-certified criminal defense lawyer. I have 23 years of experience, and I try cases to a jury, and today we are reacting to, as you scroll through Instagram and Twitter and all that kind of stuff, we come across stuff just like you do from time to time. And this is the double murder suspect defending himself screams the opening statement at the jury. Now, this is a pro se defendant. Now, what's a pro se? What does pro se mean? That means you're pro se means you're doing this on your own. It means without a lawyer. And so when you're a pro se, just because you're not a lawyer doesn't mean that you're not held to the same standards as a lawyer. But today we're going to talk a little bit about opening statements. So when you have a trial, there's a whole procedure that you go through. But to start off with, the prosecutor goes first and gives their opening statement. And in the opening statement, you tell the jury what you think the evidence is going to show. And it's not supposed to be argument. You're supposed to just give the foreshadowing of what the trial is going to be about. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you for your time and attention. This case is about X, whatever X happens to be. The evidence is going to show that in this case, Mr. Dickhead decided to pull out a firearm and shot it, whatever, however that goes. And so it's your, kind of give the jury what to expect. Now, it's never a good idea to be your own lawyer. I'm just going to tell you right now, it's just never a good idea. So, without further ado, let's get into this and let's see what this guy's opening statement is all about. Right off the bat, he's very theatrical. And he looks good. He's got a nice tie on. He's got a very creative hairdo. And he's a very serious individual.
Evidence is going to show that we are under some of the most vicious.
Now, if you are giving an opening statement, started out okay in the sense that he said the evidence is going to show, but that's where the evidence or the talent here kind of ends. He is extremely agitated, to say the least. Now, this guy's on the hook for a double murder. And if you didn't think he was angry, or, sometimes your argument has to be impassioned, sometimes it's not impassioned. But when you're the defendant and you're giving an opening statement, you don't want the jury to think, oh, I could see this guy killing a couple people. And if you look at him, he's just mugging the jury. So now, I know I'm stopping this a lot, so I will keep going a little bit. But here's the thing. This guy is on the hook for a double homicide. He's extremely agitated. What you don't see in this video are the deputies, because I guarantee you those deputies are nervous, anticipating something crazy is going to happen. I don't think it does, but because he's not in handcuffs. In any other court appearance, he's probably in handcuffs. But when you are a defendant in a case like this, you can't be in prison scrubs in front of a jury. That's your constitutional right to be viewed as a normal citizen. That's why he's got street clothes on, even though he's probably in custody.
You will know why what occurred on March 18, 2018 occurred. And the evidence is going to show that law enforcement tampered with evidence to meet their such high burden of proof. Because originally, it wasn't enough.
So, now this is actually not bad. You take away the anger. I mean, because he looks like he's just really fucking pissed off, and he looks like he wants to kill somebody, probably the state of Florida. But he's got a theme going here. And that's one of the things that you do in an opening statement. You develop a theme, and his theme is they tried to charge me before, it wasn't enough, so they fabricated evidence, and the police is fabricating evidence. It's a good theme.
So we had to tamper with evidence. Since it was such evidence already, but we still had to tamper with evidence.
One of the issues with that, though, is if you promise something in an opening statement, the trial better deliver. Otherwise, you lose a lot of credibility.
going to show he did not see me shoot his mom. The evidence is going to show my son said many things that are not true.
And one of the things that you do in an opening statement is that you talk about the witnesses, you talk about the evidence, and that's what he's talking about here. So from that standpoint, I don't know much about the case that he's talking about, but he's doing kind of what he needs to do here.
The evidence is going to show that I called 911 during Kenyatta Barron's 911 call.
Here's the other thing. Now, as a defendant, you have the absolute right to remain silent. So the government can't make you testify. And guess what? If you, and this is genius for some people because I've seen this actually work. When you are a defendant, you can agree to not take the stand, but you can give an opening and a closing argument and basically testify, and you're not subject to cross-examination. So that's only when you're representing yourself. So it's kind of a trick, really.
But all of a sudden, it ends up after I called Kenyatta, after Kenyatta Barron's call was made. Now I'm calling 911. But originally, I called 911 without even knowing she called 911 during her call. But the evidence is going to show that your representatives and law enforcement, local law enforcement, wanted to make it seem like I'm some kind of menace to society. And I ran after killing Kenyatta Barron, knowing that authority was on the way to kill my own children. I wonder why I would do something like that.
Now that's argument. You can't use argument.
For no reason. I'm standing here competent as can be, representing myself today. The evidence is going to show. The evidence is going to show.
I guarantee you somebody told him what an opening statement is supposed to be. And here's the other thing. Because he keeps using the evidence is going to show, the evidence is going to show. And in all likelihood, even though he's representing himself, the court probably has standby counsel to advise him. And so there's probably a lawyer, public defender, or somebody that's standing by, that's advising him from time to time.
My son did not witness me viciously beat his mom to death. The evidence is going to show my neighbor, Khalil Brown, whom they are trying to keep out of this trial, witnessed me take 3 strikes. The evidence is going to show that law enforcement and this administration wanted to make me look like a menace to society. So they added several mini strikes on that video and audio that you just heard. And they
when he's talking about the audio and video that you just heard, he's probably talking about something that the government played in their opening statement. And generally speaking, you're not supposed to play evidence because it's not admitted as evidence yet. It's got to go through the process. So, but he's in the opening statement, they probably played the 911 or they played some audio video.
added several statements that I did not say. evidence is going to show that I called my dad after calling 911. But that call is all of a sudden missing from the T-Mobile records that we have acquired from T-Mobile.
So in order for anybody, he's talking about phone records all of a sudden just magically missing from T-Mobile. It's a far stretch to have the cops doctor evidence like that. I mean, they just don't do it. And they get the records directly from T-Mobile.
The 911 call that I made to 911 and the 911 call that you just heard cannot be proven that it was made because after I called for an investigation of those 911 calls, all of a sudden they become missing from all evidence.
There's no way that if he calls 911 that it would be missing, because they would use that against him as consciousness of guilt. I guarantee it.
The evidence is going to show Kenyatta Berry supposedly made a 911 call, but you cannot find that on her call log, which we pulled from her actual phone. They say she made a call at 11:43. There's no 911 call at 11:43 on her call log. All of a sudden, after I called for an investigation of the original call, that's what the evidence is going to show. The evidence is going to show I look alone, but I am backed by a mighty God.
Invoking religion never helps you in an opening statement. In fact, it's objectionable, but they're letting him go because they know that he's not being effective.
The evidence is going to show I love my children. And the evidence is going to prove to you that this whole entire case has been tampered with and fabricated.
The evidence is going to show that this whole entire case has been tampered with and fabricated. Here's the thing. If you promise something in an opening statement and then it doesn't come to fruition, you're going to lose your case because they're not going to believe anything you said, and you lose the benefit of the doubt. Give an example. I had a case where my client was telling me, I was trying to put forth the belief that the cops had planted a bullet in my client's pocket. My client was on the hook for murder one. He was alleged to have killed his ex-wife's lover, okay? And he gets picked up the next morning after the guy dies at a gas station. And he gets picked up by the Violent Offender Task Force, the VCAT team. And so they arrest him and search him, put him in the back of the squad car. Don't find anything on him. They bring him over to the homicide unit where they interview him. After they take him out of the car, search him again, put him into the interview room, and they interview him. And they get done with the interview. They bring him and they put him in the car, and then they bring him over to the jail. So now he's been searched 3 times, right? He gets over to the jail. They do an inventory of everything you have on you. They take his pants off. Oh, and look what they find in his pocket. They find a bullet in his pocket. Well, guess what? Halfway through the trial, I get a CD from the cop, or from the prosecutor, and it's he's talking to his cousin. Of course I knew the bullet was there. I was just being a smart ass. because once they found that bullet, they went back and talked to him, and he said, "I don't know anything about no bullet," and then turns out he did. He was just being a smartass. So the bullet was there the whole time. So when I went down that primrose path, and then my client gets busted on the telephone, I lost credibility.
Mark my words. The evidence is going to show that yesterday I said, "Come out here, son, and help me kill this bitch." But my neighbor, Khalil Brown, nor my neighbor, Mona Lisa Prada Gray, or any of her children, Mia Thompson, or Bessie Diggs, or Mr. Gray, heard me say any of those things.
See, an opening statement really shouldn't be that long. It should be about 15 minutes tops. And then my closing arguments usually are about a half hour or so, depending upon how complex the case, how long the case is. The juries know what you're getting at. That you don't. I had one in a murder case. I had a prosecutor give an hour and a half closing argument, and one of the biggest complaints afterwards, because I talked to the jury sometimes afterwards, they thought it was just he went on and on and on and on. You make your point, you get home.
In fact, the evidence is going to show that Khalil Brown heard me say, "She killed me twice," and then nothing else.
Ostensibly because she's dead.
The is going to show. For some of you who don't know what that is, that's the criminal report affidavit that the law enforcement, lead detective, Thomas Church is the author of. The evidence will show that in that CRA, I told the neighbor, "Don't come outside. Call 911 now." But you don't hear that on this audio for some reason. But you hear all these other things that I did not say.
See, here he's arguing, and that's objectionable. But the prosecutor's not objecting because he's letting him just dig himself a hole.
The statements of Khalil Brown saying that he saw me take 3 strikes with that shotgun and nothing else. The evidence is going to show that Mr. Harmon here says that that big chunk missing out of her arm was a bird shot. It was not a bird shot. And whatever kind of shot it was, if it was a slug shot or a bird shot, where's the missing pieces of her arm?
With the missing pieces of her arm.
You will not see any missing pieces of her arm in that.
So, this was just a few snippets of this case where somebody's representing themselves on a very serious homicide, double homicide, trying to be almost a triple homicide. And thank God the little boy is alive, but the little boy is, I'm sure, going to have PTSD for the rest of his life from what he saw. When you have and courts generally don't like it when people represent themselves because it just doesn't go smoothly. But you're absolutely entitled to represent yourself. but you're held to the same standard as another lawyer. And doing the opening statement like this, so angry and so out there, all you're doing is you're showing the anger and the rage that was a portion of what happened that particular night. So I don't know any rational person who would think that that would be an effective argument strategy. Be that as it may, that's what an opening statement's all about. An opening statement is you start with a theme, you go to the introduction, you get your theme, you're the body, and then you could come back to what you said at the beginning. Basically, it's like writing an essay, but giving the jury it's like an essay giving the jury kind of a foretelling of what you believe the evidence to be. So these are just, I thought it was very interesting and comical. If it didn't involve double homicide, it would be more comical. But it's really sad that somebody died the way they did. So anyway, this is Bruce Rivers, Criminal Lawyer Reacts, and we were reacting to a pro se defendant, that's somebody without a lawyer, doing his own opening statement in a double murder case. So if you're watching this, you should follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and we'll see you next time.